What's up, good people? Today I'm going to talk you through the $1 million app that crashed my computer multiple times. Um, so I won't leave you in suspense. I'll just start off by demonstrating what the app is, and it's so simple that you might laugh. And in fact, I sort of that was my first reaction to say, well, this app is so trivial. So let's go through it first, and then let's go through the implications and why it's important to kind of understand the bigger picture with things like this. So the app is simple. Basically, it's something that runs on my Mac. I can choose a highlighter, for example, put a color in there, do some highlighting on the screen. So this is my browser, but it could be, this could be Microsoft Word or any app, and that's essentially it. It's something that allows presentations on the screen, highlights, shapes, and so forth. So the reason, and you can see it's still crashing now, and that's kind of not worried about showing this. That's part of the point of this presentation. So the reason why do I call it the $1 million app? Well, there's I built it basically by looking at a website. Let's say it had 100,000 users at about $10 a pop. That's $1 million of revenue, give or take. Based on my back of the envelope math. So what I tried to do was I looked to rebuild this using AI, specifically Claude Code, and a couple of important takeaways from this exercise. So the reason I did it in the first place is now that everybody's building, let's say, web apps through no-code tools, there's potentially less of an advantage in delving into that space. There's a lot of competition. I think to stand out, you would have to differentiate yourself with higher quality engineering, security testing. But when people can just build apps with prompts, it's interesting to explore other options, because this, building an app like this, as you can see from the crash, takes a bit more technical expertise. You've got to start burrowing into these niches and go where the competition isn't so intense. And so, my background isn't in this kind of programming. I haven't built native Mac apps before, so I thought I'd give it a try and share some interesting learning. So one, it is tougher. It's still crashing on me, which is actually better than when it started. When I first built it, you can tell because it's got to dig into the whole screen sharing and security and permission. So it's really got to dig quite deep into the operating system to work. And so when I coded the initial version, it crashed the whole computer 5 times. I had to basically do a hard power off, restart. As I refined a little bit, I understood what some of the problems were, and I've only spent half an hour with it. And you can see I've got a basic version working, but it's still crashing. And partly that's the point, I think, I'm not going to pursue this any further, even though it's potentially a lucrative niche. To really compete in this space, it would take more effort. I'm not sure how big the market is, so I was undertaking it more as a learning exercise rather than a serious business opportunity that I want to pursue. And so the big picture takeaways are, as AI develops, as you're building your skill sets, you've always got to be asking the question, what's everyone doing? Where's the market moving? Who's the competition going to be? Because with, one of the phrases that I've heard is, that really stuck with me when building your traditional web applications is, I think a venture capitalist was saying he looked at a lot of applications that were terrifyingly undifferentiated, or perhaps the phrase was swimming in a sea of sameness. But that gives you a sense of, one of the things you're looking to avoid as you build your AI career, because while the technology is new and interesting, if everyone's jumping on the same bandwagon, if you're doing the same thing as everyone else without differentiation, it's going to be difficult to make a profit. And so what I would encourage you to do, what I'm trying to do with these AI tools, is I'm trying to explore options that are essentially not going to be so heavily populated with competition, and this was one of them. So it's interesting to see how far these models can go. So I've built a lot of traditional web applications with AI. It works well for that, but it's interesting here to see that you can build native applications as well. And I'll talk through the process. I didn't film it live because it took a lot of trial and error, and so I won't, I don't want every crash recorded for camera. But I'll talk you through the process I did from beginning to end, just to give you a sense of how I got the rough prototype running. So it started with an email that said, "Hey, we're building, we've got this application." Looked it up on the website. It had a number of customers. I looked up the price, and from that, I reverse engineered that it was potentially $1 million opportunity. And all I did to build this was I got a PDF of the website. I put it into, so I don't use the web-based tools like Bolt and Replit, because they can't really build, as far as I know, these types of applications. So I put into Claude Code. I got Claude Code to read the PDF, and I said, hey, build me this application. And the first try crashed my computer 5 times. So you do need a little bit of technical expertise, or even just, you do need to troubleshoot this a bit more to even understand what's happening. Like, one of the first things that I realized was the app, if I bring it up again, the way it was designed, it's got this start and clear button, and if you're doing the annotations, I was clicking clear and it was just drawing over the clear button. So kind of these, if you're going into this niche, it's something that's quite difficult to solve. And I potentially, if this were the thing that I was going to choose, it would be good in that regard, in the sense that I would know that it would, you wouldn't have a million competitors springing up overnight. You'd have to solve some quite difficult challenges to get there, and then that's probably a good way to conclude the framework through which I view things. So even with AI, all AI has done is shifted the goalpost. So things that were difficult before now become easy. Things that were nearly impossible before become hard. So I can say, hand over heart, it would have been impossible for me to build this in half an hour before the coding tools became as good as they are now. I would have to look up the documentation. I would have had to read it. But the takeaway I had from this video is, if when you're looking to do something with AI, ask how hard it's going to be, because this is a rule that applied before AI. It's a rule that's going to apply after AI. If you're doing it, if it's easy, if it's profitable, you just know that there is going to be a ton of competition coming in, driving those margins down. So the only way to make money is either just to be really quick, you're the first one in, you make a bit of a cash grab, you leave, or you can look to build sustainable competitive advantage by doing something that's a bit more difficult, by doing something that people just with a ChatGPT prompt couldn't copy overnight. And this is an interesting example of that. So part of my exploration is I'm just going to keep digging into these niches, finding what the limits of these models are, finding where I guess there are interesting opportunities to pursue potential profit, where you're not going to have sort of a throng of people following once they catch on. So I'm going to keep exploring, sharing content. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, we'd love a like and subscribe. Catch you in the next one.